We did it. Welcome to episode 2 of the Tik and Chris podcast. My name is Christopher Long, and I am here with,
Pratik Desai.
and I'm so proud of us, right? We've already had one
Yes.
episode out. We're working on our second episode, and Google already thinks that we know so much about agents that it flagged our YouTube account as fake.
Well, it was kind of an interesting situation because it showed how many people that were interested in watching, like legitimately watching, because I got no less than 7 pings that, hey, it's not working. And I was like, oh, well, one, why is it not working? And two, I'm so honored that people are watching and found value and shared it with other people. So I'm excited to do the second one. I hope the second one is valuable and we continue to do this.
Awesome. So, just in case um, there's an issue still with YouTube, we do want to make it very clear that you can listen to our podcast on Spotify. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Music. We will figure out a way to get the video version back up on YouTube. And we do want to make
Mhm.
note that sometimes we share our screens. And if you are interested in seeing those screens, you would need to watch the video version of this podcast. Okay, so with that out of the way, um, we wanted to talk a little bit more about this idea of access to these AI
Mhm.
like revolutionary tools. And Pratik, you have an analogy that I really like. Could you talk us through that?
Yeah, I think the on episode one I talked about the idea that Uber made it accessible to drive a taxi in Manhattan. I want to continue the Uber analogy. While it's not necessarily a continuation of exactly what I said last time, it's the Uber world. And for the New Yorkers that are listening, if you think about a world where Uber at some point was actually $7 to go like 40 Manhattan blocks, from like Financial District all the way to Upper East Side. It was like $7, and I remember that vividly. And now I think the last time I was there from Penn Station to Bryant Park, it quoted me $70. That's 70. And there's a lot of talks right now. Why am I saying this, Chris? There's a lot of talks right now that Claude Code is subsidized heavily, and we don't know what that's going to look like in the future. Right? Cursor provides the same value. I think there was an estimation that it's 5,000 a month for the value that Claude Code is currently on the Max subscription is providing $100 a month. I think that's an interesting conundrum. I think it's an interesting question. It's fun to speculate. Like, is the idea that you're always going to see $100 a month, and somewhere out there's a bunch of technology companies trying to figure out how to lower the actual cost down there so they can continue to provide you the $100 service and make some money, make the math work? Or are we looking at a world where they're giving you $100, they're seeing you get adopted, they're seeing you it get sticky, they're watching you start to replace certain workflows that cost more, certain areas of your business that cost more, and then when they start increasing prices, you'll willingly play it because you've replaced more costlier items. I don't know. I don't want to speculate necessarily if we're going in direction one or direction two, or probably in multiple directions. Um, where I want to harp on is I don't think it matters as it relates to accessibility right now. Right? Those $7 Ubers were real, and people squeezed a tremendous amount of value out of those $7 Ubers when they existed. So I think about like when I was doing the $7 Ubers, the amount of things I was able to access and see and feel and dream of during those $7. Yes, it's 70 now, but I squeezed the value at the time. And so I want to focus on how do we squeeze the value of the free license, the $20 license, the $100 license, even if you're paying for that. If you're getting the $5,000 value or more, let's focus on squeezing it. Let's focus on that, and the world will shape as it shapes. But what we do today is going to matter.
Okay. You and I talk a lot.
That's true.
Talk a lot
Yes.
about tech. We talk a lot about things about um, like what's happening right now versus what's going to happen in the future. And one thing that I mention often these days are windows. Like I really believe because of
Hmm.
this exponential curve that we're all riding with this technology and how fast it's improving, that we now live in a world that's just windows. We have from here to
Hmm.
here to get this thing done before it fundamentally shifts and we have to look at it differently. And now we're in a new window and we have to do it differently.
Hmm.
So I 1,000% agree with you that it doesn't do us much good now as builders and doers to speculate on like how the pricing is going to change over time, because the window for us is now. Like,
Yeah.
I would argue if you can afford the $100 a month on Claude, you can get a lot done right now,
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
ton done. So, um, the I just want to concur. Like, I think we're in a window right now. Take advantage of the value. And I know a lot of people are worried about, okay, I'm getting started. I feel like I'm behind. I have to learn a lot. Uh, I would say, and I want your opinion on this, that don't sweat that. Pick
Hmm.
a tool and literally ask the tool how to do the thing you want to do. I
That's right.
want to do X. Talk me through doing it. You feel the
Hmm.
same?
I do feel the same. That quite frankly, that's how my wife got started, right? And look, I'm going to talk about my wife often. She's my customer zero. If I can get her to do something in tech, I've figured out a way to get someone to do something in tech. So um, the way I look at it is these things are self fulfilling, and I'm not talking about a prophecy. I'm talking about like literally
I hope not.
ask
I
it
hope that's not where we're going.
ask it how to do a thing like you just described. Ask ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever free license you like to use, right? It's all about accessibility. So ask it, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. Can you help me think through what a bad prompt looks like, what a good prompt looks like, and then walk through that, and then take that, start a new chat, use the prompt, and go forward, right? And try to solve that thing and iterate. One of the things that I'm actually talking more recently about is the idea of a prompt library. I actually had recent discussions. The theme that I've had in the last like 14 days is folks that are trying to use these technologies and going, hey, it takes me all these iterations to get one use case right. And then I don't know how to recreate that on the next time I want to do that use case. The answer is go into that chat where you got it right eventually and say, ChatGPT or whatever it is, given everything we just talked about, you finally got to the right result. This is what I like about it. Can you give me a prompt I should have started with to get the result out of you that I wanted? Boom, you've got your prompt. And you should always have a prompt library on your desktop, on Google Drive, wherever it is, wherever you house your documents. Put that in your prompt library. Now you've got a set of a prompt that you can start with for that use case always, knowing full well that it resulted at some point in time in a directionally correct outcome. And I think that like that taking that along with just talking to it and saying, how do I solve this problem, these types of mechanisms start to create a lot of understanding of how to use these tools in the future. Does that make sense?
It does. It's super practical. So even if you're not building something for yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
example, at work, um, at work we have Google products. You can make a gem, which is really just kind of like what you're talking about. It's this pre-baked prompt that you can talk to whenever you want. It is super helpful that I don't have to say every time, hello, you are a Salesforce expert. You know everything
Mm-hmm.
there is to know about Agentforce.
Yeah.
These are your main sources. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just cutting those few seconds out, like helps me at my day job do my day job. So I
Yeah.
think that is fantastic advice and also very good when you start building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so now let's get into building. And I'm gonna bring these tools up often simply because Google's just keeping everything free. Like Claude is one thing. I think if you're coding and you're a developer, there's right now on March 16th, right? I'm going to tag it. There's nothing better than Claude Code, in my opinion, and I think a lot of the industry's opinion. But not everyone's a coder, right? So, for example, literally last night, Chris, I was wanting to wireframe something out, and as I'm a digitally native wireframer. I've never done it with AI. All I did was go to Claude and I said, there has to be a new AI tool for wireframing. Give me the top 5 AI wireframing tools. Tell me why they're the best or the worst or whatever it is. That's when I learned about stitch.withgoogle.com. Have you heard of this tool?
I have not. Tell me all about it.
Okay, well, I learned all about it last night, so now I'm an expert. Uh, in fact, I'm going to share my screen with the folks that are watching on video, and you can see what this looks like. It's phenomenal. So it's just a design at the speed of light interface with a typical Google one line, just type the thing in, right? And you can toggle, do I want to build a a desktop or an app? You've got a question. Go ahead.
So this is a native Google app.
This is a native Google app
Okay.
in beta. You can see that it is in beta. It's called Stitch. And I can just describe what it is I'm trying to build, and it will then wireframe things out. If you've watched episode 1, it is the exact same experience as AI Studio, but in the wireframing world. Here's the kicker, Chris. Once you get the wireframe to where it needs to be, which all is natural language, you're talking to it. Once you get it to where you need it to be, you can drag and drop. And typical what you can do with typical wireframing tools, you can export to Figma, you can export to a wireframing accelerator tool for code, you can export the code, or here's the best part, you can export the wireframe with the pre-prompts that I would type here into AI Studio, and then the wireframe and the pre-prompt that I described here becomes the prompt for AI Studio that I showed in episode 1, and it will then build off of that. I mean, like, talk about closing the gap. By the way, all of this is free right now, right? Again, it might not be free forever, but it's free right now, and if you're not using it, you need to be using it. But talk about closing the gap on accessibility to wireframing, to coding, to prototyping. The bar has been lowered. The access to the mechanism is so much more readily available.
Interesting. So I'm doing an experiment in Claude Code, like a serious experiment. Like I'm hooking it up to Firebase. I'm using tools that eventually I want to launch through this project,
Mm-hmm.
and to get to a point where I felt comfortable, like saying, okay, Claude, now you can go code a thing. I spent hours going back and forth with Claude on a project requirements document, on phases of build, on all kinds of things. So
Yeah,
someone who's just a little less serious than that, they could
yeah.
conceptually do a wireframe, feel good about what the plan is, and
Mm-hmm.
then just hand it off to AI Studio.
Um, I'm reacting live here, right? So thinking through that, I don't know. I don't know if that would be the workflow. Let me challenge a different workflow and see if it feels better.
Okay.
Uh, if I, again, not a coder, I'm not Christopher Long, I don't know what full stack is. Like, is that the right way to go about it? I don't think so. I think you probably want to formulate your idea a little bit more. And what better place to formulate an idea than an LLM, right? So I have what I think is an idea, but I'm thinking, like, I've never wireframed, I've never prototyped, and I want to make it accessible. Um, I want to. Someone during the pandemic came up to me and said, "Hey, you seem to really like trivia. I'm actually a trivia master, and I host trivias all around the world, country." I said, "Great. What are you doing now? Because we're all locked down." And he said, "Well, I'm trying to build an app for trivia to do it all remotely, and a developer charged me $10,000 to get a prototype together." I think about that guy, and he would not know how to wireframe or what coding looks like, right? So could he have worked with a chat GPT like experience or Claude or whatever it is, had a conversation and said, this is what I want to build. Help me come up with, like, just bullet points and structure to my idea. That makes sense. And you and I are going to say that's great for an MD file. I don't think it really matters. Whatever it makes sense, PDF, right? Because if you look at this, you can actually, in your pre-prompt, upload a file. So, so I think step number one would be just deliberate that idea with the LLM, and then once you've done that, get the file out and say, this is what I think a structured idea of a trivia remotely would look like. Then come to here and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. High level. Here's the document that has the detail. This is what a high level I'm trying to accomplish. And this is what I imagine the page flow to look like. This is what I imagine the design aesthetic to look like. This is what I imagine the user experience to be. Put that here, and then see what happens. And the last step is, okay, once you have the wireframe, you now have that descriptive document, the wireframe, which the wireframe should have been also honoring the descriptive document. You export that to AI Studio. Now AI Studio has your initial prompt here, your document that is the detail of your idea, and the wireframe, and then you build. By the way, all of this is just basically one-click export. Um, to me, like I think that feels like a better workflow. I almost think we've got an episode idea where we try some of these ideas and see which one
Yeah.
feels the best. But um, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I think we kind of need to define lanes. We
Okay.
are talking a lot about different personas of people who could get started with AI. And just through our conversations, I still feel like there is a level of entry or an entry level of knowledge you
Yeah.
might need even to do what you're talking about.
Hmm.
Like like I've never wireframed, I've never done any of this. Like I think we need to do some work you and I on personas. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, because like I could hand from the way we're talking about this flow, I could easily hand this off to someone I know who already knows how to develop, comfortable with wireframes.
Right.
This could save a lot of time, can make it their workflow very efficient. Um, but if I tried to give this to my parents and said,
Hmm.
"Hey, I know you've been trying to figure out a way to do X or Y, like when to know when to buy bird feed and schedule that or something like that," I don't think I would
Yeah.
like send them down this path.
It's a good point. It's a good point. I don't actually. The persona is so hard because I don't know what path we would send them down. Right.
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, what is the parent path?
the yeah, like if I think about my dad, like what am I having him do? Am I having him do anything, or is the answer he should be calling me and I should be building it, right? Like,
That
I,
is the
I
answer right now, isn't it?
that
Yeah.
that might be the answer. But I think to kind of bring your point home, the question you're asking is for someone that like the word wireframing needs to mean something to you to even
Hmm.
start here, and maybe it might not mean anything to you. Maybe the word uh, prototyping doesn't mean anything to you, and then what do you do? Like, and you want to get started, you have ambition to get started. What does the workflow look like for that person? And I like the idea of grounding maybe our next session on, can we come up with a workflow that feels good? We'll play out an idea, but come up with a workflow that feels good for that person in, let's call it, less than 10 steps or something like that.
Okay.
And can we build an outcome that feels good and feels usable, and the workflow didn't require you to have a pre-knowledge of wireframing, prototyping, but just a little bit of understanding of natural language and prompt design.
Sounds great. I think we can do that. All right.
So what's
So,
the
yeah.
go ahead.
Wait, I mean, we're getting close to wrapping it up today. If you had to give one quick tip for this week, one thing to go check out, would this be your highlight of the week?
Stitch.withgoogle.com is my highlight of the week. These tools are not going to be free forever, but they're free right now. And
Right.
so the highlight of the week is squeeze the value out of these tools when you can. Right now is when. And what better place to get started than stitch.withgoogle.com, only because I fell in love with it last night.
Fantastic. Carpe diem. Seize the day. We are encouraging everyone, if you are close to being able to use these tools, do it now. Do it now while it's cheap or free and build away. Any other closing thoughts?
I'm excited for the next one.
All right, very good. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you again next time. Bye.